What's going on, College Hoops Heads? This is another edition of the One and Done podcast with Stephen Begel and John Simpson. We have a very special guest today. We have head coach of Utah State University, Coach Jerrod Calhoun. First of all, Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Great Father's Day. Got a chance to spend some time with my wife and kids, and it's been a great Sunday here, and I'm excited to be on with you guys.
Awesome. And again, we appreciate you taking the time, especially on Father's Day, to, come and talk some hoops with us. Unfortunately, I don't have any children quite yet, but John does. And obviously, Coach just mentioned he does. So happy Father's Day to each of you. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be on here talking college basketball. Had a good Father's Day too. Got to spend some time with my kids and catch up on a little homework. And, a real easy going day. And close it out strong.
Okay, so let's get into the interview then, Coach. My first question actually was, how was your Father's Day? I mean, we know you have 4 children, 3 daughters and a son. So, any special plans on Father's Day, or just spending time with them? What is that like for you?
No, we went up to an amusement park, a little not too far from Salt Lake City, called Lagoon. So we spent most of our day riding rides and roller coasters with the kids, and then had a nice dinner and really just got back to Logan. So yeah, it was a fun day.
Okay, awesome. So I want to ask you, because I know you and I, when we were setting up this interview, we talked about, you went to the Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks. I think it was game 3 you went to of the NBA Finals.
Yep.
And I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time. John sort of did as we were setting up this call, that you must have a relationship with Joe Mazzulla, who is the Celtics head coach. It's my understanding that he played for you when you were an assistant under Bob Huggins at West Virginia. And I believe when you left Fairmont for Youngstown State, he took over. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Joe and I go back really since about 2007 when I first got introduced to him. He was recruited and played for John Beeline. And then when I came in with Coach Huggins' staff, we coached Joe. He helped lead us to a Sweet 16 and a Final Four. He got into coaching at Glenville State, and then I hired him at Fairmont State. He was on my staff for a number of years. And then, as you said, he took over for me when I went to Youngstown State. So, he and I are best of friends. I was the best man in his wedding. So obviously, really pulling for these Celtics. Just have a deep respect for him and a love for him and his family. And, I took my daughter to game 3, and it was incredible. So we're going to have a little Celtics gathering tomorrow. And hopefully they can close this thing out. But you know how hard it is to win an NBA championship. But really proud of him, and it's just an unbelievable story.
Absolutely. That's awesome to hear.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think part of the reason that kind of got brought up is we were talking about, we got to do our research before we do these types of interviews and stuff. And, kind of looking at, you as a coach and, coming to, what has been kind of like a great program at Utah State, but looking back through your playing career and, the guys that you coached with, coached under, coached, there's some amazing names there, and some great coaches. I know you played for Coach Massimino at Cleveland State, which is kind of a cool fact that we pulled out. And, obviously you spent all the time coaching under, a great coach in Bob Huggins. How much of those guys really kind of molded who you are as a person, as a coach, and your coaching style? And I guess you could even add on, like, how much do you kind of see some of that in what Joe Mazzulla is doing with the Celtics now?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. I went to a great high school. I played for a coach that won a lot of state championships, one of the best schools in the state of Ohio, Villa Angela St. Joe's. We had about 7 or 8 NBA players from my high school, and a guy by the name of Ted Kwasniak really kind of took me under his wing. I wanted to get into coaching, so I I stayed home and I went to Cleveland State, and I was a walk-on, ended up earning a scholarship. But I really went there, John, to learn under Raleigh Massimino. I wanted to coach. From there, I was really fortunate to get on at University of Cincinnati as a student assistant. Bob Huggins is obviously in the Hall of Fame. But one thing that I learned really, really quick is he really allows guys on his staff to really coach. And I was blessed there. I was, a young guy trying to learn. Guy by the name of Andy Kennedy, now the head coach at UAB, was the coach at Ole Miss. Guy by the name of Dan Peters took me under his wing, and Coach Peters got me the assistant job at Walsh University, where he and Coach Huggins built that into a power. So I worked for a guy named Jeff Young, I think one of the best Division II coaches in the country. And then from there, I went to West Virginia, where I really had to work my way up. Coach Huggins, I think, is one of the best coaches that we've ever seen at the collegiate level. If you look at what he did at West Virginia, Sweet 16s, the Final Four, same thing at Cincinnati. He wasn't at a blue blood school, and he won almost 1,000 games. So to be able to learn under those guys, and then being able to hire some really good coaches. Joe Mazzulla, now the head coach of the Celtics. I have Chinadu Nwachukwu. He's an assistant with the Grizzlies. Just a lot of guys on my staff or that I played with have been huge. I've learned so much from those guys. So it's been a great journey. I've coached at every level: Division II, NAIA, Power 5, mid-major. And I think all of those experiences kind of shape you to the coach you are today.
That's quite the coaching tree.
So while we're on the topic of, not only what you've gone through as a coach, everywhere you've coached, but I told you a little bit about the background of an article I'm writing for Busting Brackets. John and I had the pleasure of interviewing Darius Brown in the beginning of last season when he first started with Utah State. Obviously, he ended up being a Mountain West first-teamer last year, and him and Great Ossabaw, I think, were the top two guys in the Mountain West in terms of Mountain West Player of the Year. So after talking with Darius, I wanted to pick your brain, Coach, on Utah State's, sort of philosophy in terms of how they hire coaches. Obviously, when it was John Hardwell as AD, or whether it was Diana Sabu, or even the interim AD, Jerry Bovee, they've each hired, I think, in the last 7 years, including the year Utah State won the Mountain West, the COVID year when the tournament was canceled, they would have played because they won the Mountain West. That makes 5 out of 7 years that they would have been in March Madness. And, Craig Smith came from one of the Dakotas. Obviously, Ryan Odom came from that UMBC team that was a 16 seed. And now Danny Sprinkle came from Montana State. And all those guys sort of used, didn't use Utah State as a stepping stone, but ended up parlaying that job into Power 5 jobs. I suppose my question is, how does your coaching compare to those guys in terms of you all started at low or mid majors, you all end up at Utah State, and so far all of them have ended up parlaying that into even a higher major job. So, I mean, is there something Utah State does specifically in the hiring process, or what was that hiring process like for you?
Yeah, I can't speak for Ryan or Danny or Craig, but what I can speak on is the process that I went through. It was very thorough. I think they did a tremendous job throughout the interview process, really, getting to know me as a person, the way I lead a group of players, how I manage my staff. We're in a total different world right now, Steve, with the NIL and the transfer portal. We were able to navigate that the last 3 years in the portal. We were able to really get some great players at Youngstown State, traditionally a program that had struggled really for about 30 or 40 years. So, the one thing that I was so impressed with the process was the questions. What is your style of play? How do you handle certain situations? How are you going to get out in the community and fundraise? All those things, I think, really go hand in hand now in today's landscape. You have to be able to recruit and develop high school players. You have to be able to fundraise to make sure your NIL is at the top of the league. You have to be able to develop players and have great relationships. You have to be able to retain players. There's a lot that goes into this, but I felt the alignment with Diana and her team was really, really something that I was so impressed by. Then when you get on the campus and you see the Spectrum, you hear the stories of Spectrum Magic. This is a passionate place. Logan, Utah is a town that really gets behind their team. Utah State is their team, whether it's men's basketball, women's basketball, soccer, volleyball, football, all of our sports. If you look at our attendance numbers, they're tremendous. So I wanted to really be a part of this. So we're really excited to be here in Utah. I think they've nailed all of their hires. So hopefully, I don't screw it up.
We have faith that we obviously have faith that you won't. So we're looking forward to seeing you, get down to business there in the Mountain West.
Yeah, I think it's a great conference, Steve. There's great coaches. I got a chance to meet all of those guys, at the Mountain West meetings, and they're just tremendous people and great coaches. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Boy, I like to be a fly on the wall in that meeting, but.
You spoke a little bit about, the NIL and recruiting and, kind of things you've done at Youngstown State and, all that goes into this now is probably, I'm sure, is a lot more than went into it, 5-10 years ago, if not just being different. What was it like coming from Youngstown State to Utah State and building this roster, that you have now? And kind of like, what was that process like for you? And how do you feel about this roster that you have going into next year?
Yeah, John, I think that's a great question. It's been a lot of fun. I think so many coaches out there complain about the portal, about NIL. I've been a guy that has really just tried to embrace, get my feet on the ground, get to know people, and really, try to figure a way we can be successful. It's been awesome. We were able to retain 5 really good players, 3 starters on a 28-win team. What Coach Sprinkle and his staff did last year here with that group was tremendous. There's a real brotherhood amongst all Aggie players. Anybody that's ever wore the Aggie uniform, it's special. And I haven't been to a place like this since West Virginia. We had that at West Virginia where all the greats came back, and we were building that at Youngstown State. So I think you have a lot to sell. You have great history, great tradition. You're coming off an all-time high in the Mountain West, 6 NCAA tournament teams. We won 28 games, won an NCAA tournament game, won the regular season title. So, I'm all about momentum. You have to capture momentum. I think we're able to do that. We're able to sell our vision. And then our style of play. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been one of the best offensive teams in the country. We have a specific philosophy that we look for in recruiting, and we want to play to that style. And I said all along, I don't think this is a rebuild job. This is a reload, and we're looking to reload. And, it's not going to be easy. That's for sure. We're going to play some great teams inside the conference, and then we're going to challenge ourselves in the non-league as well.
Man, that's awesome. I think we talk a lot about on this podcast about how important continuity is on these basketball teams, and even I think maybe especially in this portal area, it's not always, the biggest guys aren't the ones you bring in as the ones that you keep on that team, and we were talking before we talked about how impressive it was, that you've been able to retain as many guys as you have there. So we're looking forward to seeing that roster this season.
Yeah, I think, John, it's all about when you inherit a program, trying to get to know those kids as fast as you can and sell your vision and get to know their story, right? And we were able to do that. And, Ian Martinez and Isaac Johnson and Mason Falslev and Carson Templin and, Jackson Smith, those 5 kids really believed in our staff. And I give them a lot of credit, and they'll be, the main catalysts, from a leadership standpoint, because they've been there in that locker room for a number of years.
Yeah, and as important as continuity is, John and I were so impressed with how Coach Sprinkle was able to basically literally win the Mountain West regular season title last year when I think it was 0.2% of the minutes were returning. So that obviously means 99.8 were fresh faces that are just meeting each other for the first time when they're stepping on campus. And, the lack of continuity kind of shows how impressive, that's kind of what made me so intrigued with the Utah State basketball program and made me want to, continue to keep up specifically with them and write this article that I keep discussing. My last question for you, Coach, before we get into the full court press, unless John has something to add. How different is it recruiting at a school where you could sell, look, we're coaching in a league that had 6 bids last year in the NCAA tournament, as opposed to Youngstown State, where obviously in the Horizon League, you have to win the conference tournament to be able to get in?
Yeah, I think nowadays kids want to play in multi-bid leagues. It certainly helps. There's no doubt about it. I would be lying to you to say that it hasn't helped. But I think there's so many factors that go into recruiting. Relationships really matter, but it has been a huge benefit. I think probably not for just Utah State, but all of our league to try to capture that momentum in recruiting with the success that the league just had.
Okay, awesome. John, do you have any questions to add, or should we get into the full court press?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, so, Coach, as I said, the full court press is basically 10 rapid fire questions. You can answer them however you like. It's for people to either get to know you better as a coach or you better as a person.
Yep.
What's your favorite basketball memory?
There's been a lot of them. That's a really tough question. I would probably say beating Kentucky in 2010 and going to the Final Four has to be one of the best.
Who's your favorite all-time basketball player?
LeBron James.
Okay. What is something that people may not know about you just by, Googling you? It could be a hobby. It could be anything about you. A hidden talent, maybe?
Probably that I'm just a pretty simple guy.
Okay.
Don't really just like spending time with my family and really watching basketball. I know that's a pretty boring answer, but I would say that. And I would probably say that.
Okay. So this is more aimed towards players that we interview, but who do you think you have, does your coaching style, is there like a coaching comp that you think of, like in terms of your coaching style, someone you modeling your coaching game after, maybe?
I steal from everybody. I don't try to model them. I try to steal ideas. I try to stay true to myself. But I've certainly changed over the years. I would say that more to a player's coach.
Okay. If basketball didn't exist, basically, what would you be doing as a career?
Probably something in the criminal justice system helping kids.
Okay, I like that answer. I went to law school myself, so I'm very familiar, obviously, with that field. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Probably to fly. I get tired of waiting on these airlines. They're taking way too long nowadays with the delays. So I would say my superpower would be to fly.
When you played, how did you choose your number?
Larry Bird, my favorite player. I love Larry Legend. He and LeBron are probably my 2 favorites. So wanted to be Larry Bird growing up.
Okay. Then we have, I suppose this one's a compound question, because typically we ask, who's the best player you ever played with and best player you ever played against? So I want you to answer each of those, and then also the best player you ever coached against and the best player you ever coached, if you're able to answer that.
Yeah, by far the best player I ever played against was LeBron James. Played against him in high school. He was just a tremendous talent. He was only a freshman at that time, so definitely the best I ever played against was him. The best I ever coached or was around, that'd be very tough. Talent-wise, it has to be Robert Whaley, 6'10" kid from Walsh University. He got drafted by the Utah Jazz, one of the last guys to ever get drafted from the Division II ranks. I would say he's up there, along with Kevin Jones and Joe Alexander. Those three kids were unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. And then our last question, actually, that we conclude every interview with is LeBron James or Michael Jordan. But given how this interview's going, I think I might have an idea of where you're going to go.
Well, I think that's, we all debate that. Depends what type of team you have, right? Basketball is not just one player. So if you need a scorer, you need a guy to put the ball in the basket. Obviously, you're going to pick Michael Jordan, but LeBron at 6'9", 250 pounds, can do a little bit of everything. So probably a better facilitator for sure than Michael. I think it depends on who the other four players are on the court along with those guys.
Okay, awesome. So, yeah.
That's a coach's answer.
It is a coach's answer, but we wouldn't expect anything less from Coach Calhoun.
Yeah.
I'd like to coach either one, so I'd take either one, guys.
Okay, no problem. Okay, this concludes our interview with Coach Jerrod Calhoun from Utah State University. Coach, we're looking forward to watching, what you're drawing up on clipboard this year, and we appreciate you taking the time not only to sit down with us, but especially, on Father's Day as well. It means a lot to us that you were able to come and sit with us.
Yeah, guys, John, Steve, I appreciate you guys. If you guys are ever in Logan, you have a place to stay here at my house. We're still trying to put it together, but we'd love to have you guys and enjoyed this.
I might take you up on that.
You got it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Coach.
Thanks,
yeah, we
guys.
appreciate it. Okay. Thank you, Coach.
Bye-bye.